Here's the other team, the obvious other name to talk about, like I said earlier. If you actually look and you want to talk reasonably about who could be a good team, it's the Hanwha Life one. What's funny is this just shows you how that whole like super team tag is really like just biased to do you like the players? Because you do know on paper, you could argue this is a super team. Think about this, guys. Their lineup is Thorin, right? Obviously, he was never an amazing player. He's an LCK champion, by the way. So we have Thorin top lane. Then we have Peanut jungle. If you don't know, by the way, Peanut has something like 6 LCK titles, MVP multiple times. Again, great, one of the greatest junglers of all time. They kept Zeka mid lane. They've got Viper ADC still, and then they got Delight from Gen G. Like, by the way, it just won the LCK, etc. Like, you could argue, by the way, Zeka's won Worlds, obviously, as has Viper on EDG. You could argue on paper this is a super team, even though people aren't doing that. Like, and if people don't know, very quickly before we get into this lineup, years ago when Hanwha Life first came into the league, and initially, you remember they had that like dodgy ass lineup. I think they even had, I think they actually had CV Max or something early on, or someone like that. I think it was the coach, and then eventually they got Chovy, if you remember, at one point in time, and they had that lineup with Chovy and Deft, etc., which was like only them. If you don't know why people like Chovy would join the team, I remember when they first joined LCK as an org, Loco told me, oh, go and look into this org, like just as a company in Korea, not the org Hanwha Life, but go and look in who Hanwha Life is. And if you look it up, you can tell me this, Brendan, it's like a massive company in fucking Korea. Like, people might not know the name, so they might think, oh, this team can't compete with the Gen G. Dude, the joke is, if I had to guess, this team, Gen G is actually not even a Korean org, if people don't know. The argument is, like, Hanwha Life's right up there with the T1s. Like, that company has fucked on some money, right? If they really want to, they can make super teams, right?
Yeah, they're fucking massive. They are, like, one of the biggest companies in Korea. Just the Hanwha brand in general, and then Hanwha Life Insurance as well.
Yeah, I was going to say, as an insurance company, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's their life insurance branch, and they have, like, 30 branches. Okay, it's like one of those companies, right? So
yeah,
they are gigantic, and they have very deep pockets as well. So it is.
Looks like they spent on this team, mate. What do you think of this squad, Brendan?
If they wanted to spend, they could, and I think they did. Like, especially the Viper staying and getting Peanut. Definitely in my mind, those would be like the two most expensive guys.
Yeah,
getting them peanuts, getting those pennies.
Yeah. Thorin, I don't know what to think, man. I'm very worried about his mental state after, especially Worlds and what happened with the Aatrox Flash and stuff. But he's strong, but he's not like he's a good like regular season player, but he's had some big ups and downs in his career. I'm very excited for Delight. We've all very highly rated Delight. I think that he's a really strong player, a great leader. Even when he was on Brion a couple of years ago, we were all like, okay, this guy is actually quite good towards the end of the year.
Evil hell.
Yeah. And he did. He got into Gen G, and then now he's on Hanwha Life, and I think people are beginning to realize that he is a really, really strong player, and now he's going to get, I think, his best duo ever with Viper, right? So I think those two should be probably the main core of this roster. Top side of the map, I think that could be very volatile. Zeka, a little bit of like he's like a patch Zerg, he's good with certain champs, and if they're strong in that meta, then he can be really strong, but otherwise like a little bit shaky, kind of like forced to play Azir and stuff.
I will throw this out there right now. Wakali supposedly could be quite strong. That's not a bad sign on the horizon.
Have to be permabanned against them.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Akali is not going to see the light of day in the LCK because not only Zeka, but like Showmaker can play it, Faker can play it,
Chovy plays it, loves it.
Chovy can play it, obviously. Like, yeah.
Top laners can all play it as well. It's a flex. Yeah. It's an actual legitimate
King
flex in Korea. Yeah, King can play Kali. So like, there's so much. But by the way, I actually think this is like the best roster construction in the LCK in years. Because for me, all the players really make sense. Like, Thorin is a perennial, like, optimized for side laning, like weak side like player.
Yes.
And he the reason I respect Thorin is he lives up to my favorite adage, know thyself. Thorin never pretends to try and be something that he isn't. He fundamentally knows who he is as a player. He does have like a wavy year where there was a period in like summer last year where Thorin was actually elite. I actually thought he was one of the best top laners like in the world. He was playing so many of the matchups out so optimally. He was like playing better than Zeus for like large periods of the regular season. I thought he was great, but that's like Thorin of that period in time, and I've seen way much more of like Thorin of exactly. I've seen him at Worlds, but what's really interesting is you have potentially a lot of Zeka's picks actually pertain to side laning. You've got Doran, who was great at side laning on Gen G, and you have Peanut, who I don't like. Put it this way, I've got like respect for Peanut, but I have like my doubts on him as like an individual like player, where like he's like frustrating in the sense of I feel like people often accredit things that like Chovy was doing and would just give like Peanut like the credit for like being there. I was like, and sometimes it was like good, but he does have like fundamental like problems. But I think he's going to be very, very good on this roster because this roster is going to be able to just play around mid, around bot lane. They have an unbelievably strong bot lane. Viper was still a candidate for one of the best ADCs in the world last year. He wasn't on one of the best teams. Like it's not like his like level just like dropped off. You've now gave him Delight, who was one of the best supports in Korea last year. So this is actually an amazing roster, and this is where roster upgrading the direction most LCK roster upgrading should go. You keep the strong fundamental players, and then you bring in like core for dismantling, and you take their strong fundamental players if it makes sense. And to me, not so much this team. Not so much this team will be, or like, it could be like beating T1. But if you told me at the end of the year this team was better than Gen G across the average, I wouldn't be like utterly astounded. Like I think that is entirely plausible. Like it's not completely out of the question. So, I'm actually really excited to see this team. I think this team's going to be crazy, like sick to watching team fights and skirmishes. Zeka's like somewhat limited in terms of his like champion pool, but the thing is if you can actually get like Zeka to like the mid game, he's like I always say, it's like Korean Vethio, where I always thought fundamentally he takes such stupid risks in lanes for the champions that he's playing. But if you can get him to mid game and you can get him to team fight, in terms of mechanical prowess, skill shot accuracy, assassin execution play, he's like one of the best in the world, and has been since he played in like day one in like the LPL, where he was like a prodigy picked out of the pack by Coma. There's a lot of depth of play, and he also doesn't get credit for stuff. Like, for example, like Valdez, I don't know, like Zoe isn't meta right now. But if Zoe just randomly becomes like meta, Zeka's one of the best Zoes in the world. He's like insanely good on like Zoe. During his tenure when he was in the LPL playing it, he was like up there with like Knight and Yagal in terms of like understanding of like terrain chokes and stuff. So there are like levels to like Zeka's play that you can't see. I always do get a bit concerned where someone's champion pool is like throttled by, just Poppy, like Zeka likes his dash champions. So I think where it goes, and Poppy's like quite good right now. So we'll see how this thing goes. Dandy's the coach as well, isn't it? Dandy coaching Peanut? That's crazy. So. What a world.
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure he just received a suspension though.
Fair enough.
I digress.
I'm actually with you though. What's funny is this was a team where, bizarrely, on some of the insight when we talked in the off season, Monty's actually quite low on this because he obviously like hates on Zeka and all them for like winning the fraudulent worlds. But my problem always has been this. It's like you say, Kira. It's like, look, here's the problem. All you have to do is just take that worlds out of the equation, and then you have an accurate view of Zeka's career. He was a talent in the LCK. The joke is, if people don't know, not only just because of style of play, but like the strengths and weaknesses. He's like the Korean leader. The player that we have from Norway who plays in the LEC, who just plays the Assassins and the Yorn and the Zed, but he doesn't want to play the Azir and the Orianna if he can. But the point is, people know, same thing in that team. The problem is, obviously, if you hit a meta where it's only Azir Orianna, you're going to be in a bit of trouble. And then secondly, he has to get his picks as well. It's not just that he has to avoid the ones he's not as good. He has to get his picks. So if you ever see Zeka, like, it's not just the Carly guys. Like, his Yorn can be fucking monstrous. He's a sick player. And with you as well, Kira, in a way, you do have to sort of protect him a little bit. But you get him to these scenarios where these champions carry team fights and he's a fucking monster. Well, this is why I sort of agree as well, Kira. I have to be cynical with the players. But once I'm cynical, I think it fits together. Like, I'm with you on the Doran one. The Doran one also tells me, did you already watch Worlds? Because if you watched LCK, dude, this guy actually, I even said this, I would have, at the beginning of last year, I would have said, what's Doran doing on this team? Like, get a better top laner in. Like, we're not going to win Worlds with this team. But when I actually saw him play, he did a really good job as like a gatekeeper top laner. Like, he did lose gracefully and let them play for mid and ADC. And by the way, until he got to Worlds, he didn't get beaten up. The joke is in the finals, he's one of the reasons everyone was hating on Zeus. Because this guy was actually just outplaying him. Like, he was looking fucking good. And everyone was saying, like, Zeus is supposed to be the best. Well, he should be. Probably should be the best Korean Korean top laner. Then you go down, Peanut, for all of his flaws, one of the things, I agree they went too far with it. Chovy's definitely got some brain of his own, but he definitely did clearly play a role in like developing Chovy. Well, I'll tell you what, with a player like Zeka, it's going to be difficult. You want the jungler to fucking be playing for that guy and have a whole game plan as to what he's going to do, how are we going to get him through lane, how are we going to get him ahead, how are we going to match all the ganks. Sounds great. Oh, also, here's the other angle, Key Ray. If you're worried about Poppy games, you can just fucking have Peanut pick it. He can just pick it. He's champion. There's an angle. And then I'll throw this in. Look, as much as I'll say, it's not as simple as like, oh, but everyone's going to ban him, so he'll be fucked. Zeka will have a hard time when people ban, but the good news is this. Every time you spend all your bans on his champions, you're going to get games where now Delight gets a Rakan. Now you get that Poppy for Peanut. You're going to get some actual good picks for other picks, so it can work out if the other players are good. And then you go to the bot lane. Mate, this is a steal. How have they made this fucking lineup? Like, one, I can't even believe Viper's still on the team. I really thought if you saw him play at LCK, it's just, because ADC is sort of like an ABC role, it's just the most obvious that like his main strength mechanic is fucking bonkers. Like this guy, for real, I thought he was going to be on like Gen G or fucking JD, you know, some like best team in the world for like $7 million. This guy is so cracked out. I think he's really, really good. And then who have you paired him with? Bro, I don't know what. This is the one move on Gen G I don't get. I don't get the Lehens. That's why I asked if it's some sort of captain swap or so. Because player for player, if I take the nameplates off, I'm taking Delight over Lehens all day long, mate. Yeah. Delight was a fuck. Yeah. Here's the thing, because obviously, it, like over the years as he got stronger, mate, by the time he hit summer onwards, he was a star. I even thought he was really good at Worlds, actually. He's one of the few players that don't play him. And it wasn't just when he picked Rakan, by the way. You can't make it as simple as that. Like, this guy just really did work. And again, think about this. What the area he was the best at? He was fucking sick in some of those team fights. Think about, I'm just imagining a world where Zeka and Viper are just killing everyone while Rakan jumps on everyone in a team fight. That's like right there on paper, guys. Like, meanwhile, you've got a weak side tank top laner and then a jungler who just plays for the team. Like, and plays champions like Poppy that just eliminate people from team fights. This actually looks, I agree with you, Kieran, this is really good roster construction, actually. Yeah, it's not the 5 best players, but there's a world where if this team gets together, why can't they be like the second or third best team in LCK? Why can't they be at Worlds? I think it's totally plausible. I'm actually, as much as I'm not a massive Zeka fan, I'm looking forward to watching this team play. It looks like it should fit together. The joke is, they're sort of the opposite of the Gen G one. The Gen G one has the stronger players on paper, but how the fuck are they going to fit together? I feel like this is almost obvious. This team should have some sort of cohesion, you know. Feels like they picked the right types of players too.
Yeah, it's a good shout, especially because Peanut to me is such an intelligent player. He's one of those guys that, like, with age, kind of like Faker, I guess.
Yeah.
What people say about Faker is like what Peanut really does. Like, Faker does it to an extent, but Peanut really like tries to go into that style where he's like, he is the mastermind. He is the one telling all of his lanes what to do. And so he is like the perfect guy for both Thorin and Zeka, right? So it's like, you've got him to kind of control the solo lanes and like, okay, just don't do anything bad. I'm going bot. I'm going to dive and get Viper and Delight ahead. And then we're going to win. And you guys are going to be serviceable. You're going to split push. I think it is a really good shout. Like, in terms of like, which jungler out of all the junglers in the LCK would you like to have with Thorin and Zeka if they had to be paired together? Well, it would be Peanut, I think, actually. So, and it's really funny you were mentioning like Delight and how strong he is. When it comes to like, you know, we have to pick for all pro, we had to put in our votes. And I know it's a little bit of a meme, especially with the KT and what happened in summer. But for AD carry, it was so hard. It's like so difficult almost every year because it's like, you know, Viper's just so good. I remember I was here, I'm like, I really want to put Viper on my list. I think I eventually did at like 3rd or something, just because I know he's so fucking strong. But it's so difficult because you've got guys like, you know, Gumiusi on T1 because, you know, T1 is so strong. And then you look at KT Rolster, it's like, do we have to put like aiming on the list? You know, where does he fit in all this? He's quite good right now at the end of the season. Like, he's actually becoming more consistent. And then when it comes to support, it's like, okay, carry a Delight. It's like, okay, we all just like listed out like immediately.
All right, everyone had that list,
funny
right?
Because, you know, Carrier, he's really strong. He's very, he's got like many different styles of play. Delight is like the perfect kind of engaged support and kind of like that old Mad Life style where you're just like, okay, I'm going to make these crazy plays. I'm going to be the star from the support role. And I feel like every year Delight's getting like a little bit closer, right? I think that Carrier kind of brings in a lot of different styles, whereas Delight is a little bit more one track minded, but he's so good at that one track that it's okay that, you know, he can be very obviously the second best support in Korea. And, who knows in the next couple of years? I mean, he just keeps getting better. Every year I'm like, oh my God, Delight was already good. Now he's like so good. Yeah. How can he do this? How can he get this good? So I'm very excited for that bot lane. And as long as Peanut keeps it all together, I think this could be a really strong team. I would put them definitely third, even ahead of like KT Rolster and D+.
And by the way, listen, some of this might be hopium, not even copium, hopium. This is like hater hopium, though. Are you ready? This is a new brand of hopium. I've just designed it. You feel in control, right? Basically, here's the statement. Just record this timestamp, everyone. There's a world where this team could be better than T1. I said it. I put it out there. I manifested it into the universe. It's on my vision board. Hanwha Life, Peanut, better than Faker. But by the way, there's another thing. That on this team as well, they actually have the maddest flex war of all time. Because if you are Zeka and Viper, you can go, all right, Peanut, how you doing, mate? And then you've got the ring from Worlds on. But then Peanut can just go like, how are you doing, mate, Zeka? Like 6 fucking rings from LCK. Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah. We've got both sides, mate. Who knows which is better, these two? Because there's the other thing about this team. Dude, everyone's been some form of champion in this team. I think people are actually low-key underrating this roster. It's actually quite interesting. Yeah, I think it's a bagger on paper, mate. I can't believe I actually did just imply, though, that like a Zeka team will be like number one. We'll see on that one. We'll see. Wait and see on that one. We'll see. Even I had to rein myself in. Quick one.
Do you think Korea was better than Delight in summer?
Brendan, I think he means you.
But in summer just there, where like Faker came out of the roster and everyone looked like they had disconnected their hands and brain, and the only human being on the team was like Guma for 3 months. Because I'm sorry, I love Korea. I think he was amazing. I very rarely say supports are the best players in the world, but at the start of last year, Korea for me was like the best player in the world. But I couldn't even with like my like belovedment, I couldn't say that Delight was worse than him. Like a lot of people talked about Delight being like narrow in the same way they like, I just like plays Rakan, and the same way they talk about missing in the LPL, they like talk about like that's like narrowness. It's like, yeah, it's okay if you only know one punch as long as it knocks a guy out. Like, but I've never understood that less criticism. And another one for Delight and like missing are people who are these Rakan and engaged specialists, right? Because they get Rakan, it's like, what are they to do? Like, not play it? That's like saying to like any good ADC, like when don't play the best thing. It's like so silly to talk in like those terms. It's because Korea found this other avenue to be successful, right? But just because you find a different avenue to be successful, if the other guy goes the main way and is still successful, just because yours is unique, you get like credit for doing it unique, but it's what you do for your team in the game. And Delight is like, of any even Korean player, he has some of the best sense for the snapping gauge, where he'll like pick someone out of position, or the enemy team are like out of their timing, like where they wouldn't be able to like group in time, and he'll like stagger their pre-objective like setup. He is like so good at that. Like it's like Halisang's from like 2018 and like Ming from 2018 level. He reminds me a lot of like really, really good like LPL and European like Rakan players, more than like the very controlled like Korean style. And I think it's actually going to suit like this team super, super well, because on the unbeknownst note is Viper is actually mega aggressive. Even though like, because he makes so few mechanical errors, people often put him in the wheelhouse of like the safer players like Deft and stuff. Okay. Where like I don't know, I think most people just don't actually watch him play. He's unbelievably aggressive. Like Viper is almost like comically so. Where,
dude,
like,
it's why I actually think low-key, he's one of the only Korean players ever, I think, since he didn't get on like T1. It's the mistake he came back to Korea. Dude, he should have stayed in the LPL. That was the perfect region for him. Yeah. They fucking loved his style of play, mate. They just played for it. It was amazing.
Yeah, and that's what I remember at the time when we were talking about Leave. It's like Leave was replacing like Viper. Yes. That was like the joke. It's like it's impossible because no player can fundamentally do it. Like even like, and as a talking point, people are not going to want to hear because of the year. If you told me EDG had gotten Ruler for Viper, I would have told you it's more likely a mistake than not. Even though Ruler went on to have like a fantastic career, because it's how well like Viper like suits the environment of his like team, and it's like Viper and almost every one of his team is like a bus driver. He is the vehicle on which the team will win the game, and he will give you unbelievably high percentage chances to win the game. I have almost never seen him like let a game just like peter out and like be lost without him attempting to win it. He really doesn't like care about like KDA and stuff like that. He does give his team the best chance of winning. The only thing that scares me is, are they, in the opening meta, we don't know how the rest of the year is going to go, him and Delight getting these double-ranged combos executed into them, because they're scary as fuck. And you better believe, like, either Peanut is going to cover those dives, you know what I mean, and is going to be like aware of them, and and he's going to give them the breathing space, or they're going to have to like start playing them themselves and find like a new dynamic, because they are very, very potent in my opinion, and they're they're like game shifting. Like how much of a gold lead they can create is like game warping large. So I'll be interested to see it go, but I'm super high on this team.
See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.